Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the final YSEALI webinar series. My name is Amalina, and I am the YSEALI coordinator here at the US Embassy Kuala Lumpur. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and I am so excited to have this final webinar series, and where we're going to be joined by excellent speakers who are who are doing such great work outside. Um, I just want to, before I introduce the speakers, just a little bit of some housekeeping rules. First and foremost, this session is going to be recorded, so let's be nice to each other. If you see the chat room on the right, please make sure that you just share us your thoughts. If you guys have any things that you guys agree with or any points that you guys want to share with the rest of the participants, feel free to do so. We also want to share with you a few buttons down here. So if you see join YSEALI, that's our call to action. If you have not joined the YSEALI network, come and join us where we send you various updates. We also have ask a question portion. So if you click on the ask a question, you can also vote for the for your favorite questions or ask your own questions. We also have a poll section where you can answer various questions just so that we can get to know you a little bit better. And yeah, so obviously you guys are not interested to listen to me. We're here to listen to our amazing speakers. So without further ado, I'm going to sort of introduce you guys to them. So maybe Richard, can you say hi to can you say hi to us?
Hi guys.
Hi. And so we also have Yasmin Rashid.
Hi.
And lastly, we have Brian. Hi, Brian.
What's up, guys?
All right. So let's do some ice breaking here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and maybe you can share with us one fun fact about yourself. Maybe we can start with Brian.
Oh, by me. Okay, no problem. Yeah, so I'm Brian. I run an education technology company called Future Lab. What we do is we focus on connecting students and graduates to industry mentors. What we want to do is kind of bridge this knowledge gap between education and the future workforce, because we believe there's a lot of students graduating not knowing what they want to do, also not knowing how to get to where they want to be, right? That's Future Lab. Interesting thing about myself, I have 3 dogs and I like fishing. So I like going into like weird places to catch fish. So I think that is quite random as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And Yasmin, over to you.
Hi, I'm Yasmin. I think tonight I'm representing Eco Nights, a nonprofit environmental organization. Although in the last 8-9 years, somehow we've also been known as a social enterprise. And what was the second question, Amalina?
Oh,
Sorry.
fun fact about yourself.
I've always been a science stream student, but I think secretly deep down inside me, I've got a little bit of fartsy gene. So one thing, but I don't really tell people a lot but I do and do publish a little bit of my work is doodling. So I've
Oh,
been
nice.
doodling ever since I was a kid. But when I was a kid, it was like, hey, pay attention in class lah. But now it's an arts. So yeah, that's a fun fact about me. I hope it's fun.
That was really fun. Also, a bonus fact: Yasmin is my long-time girl crush. I've admired Yasmin for the longest time since I was a university student. Yeah. So Richard, over to you.
Hi guys. I'm Rashid. I'm a doctor with the Ministry of Health, and I'm working at Sarawak General Hospital. I just want to say thank you to Amalina and the rest of the YSEALI team for having me here today as a guest panelist. It's a real privilege to join you all today. I also want to thank the viewers for taking the time to tune in to today's webinar. I know it's pretty late. Special arrangements were made just because of my timetable scheduling. I'm a resident in the Department of Rehabilitative Medicine with a special interest in the field of neuro rehab services. Fun fact about myself, I was invited to provide insights into the public health um, response in Kuching, but that is certainly not my area of clinical expertise. That being said, I have spent the better part of the past 3 months heavily involved in my hospital's COVID-19 response task force. This includes disease epidemiological analysis, clinical discussion of COVID-19 patients, efforts to increase healthcare capacity, etc., etc. So these are probably the areas where I can hopefully provide better insight and understanding to all our viewers today in the context of trying to understand the new normal.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Richard. And I just want to say thank you so much to all our speakers for actually taking their time off their really busy schedules to talk to us today. And as Richard mentioned, thank you again also to the participants who decided to spend their time with us as well. Okay, so without without further ado, I'm just gonna ask about the elephant in the room, which is obviously the global pandemic and COVID-19. And as you can see here, our speakers have very different backgrounds. So I'll be asking each of the speakers based on the perspective of their sectors. So maybe we can start with Yasmin. Can you tell us what was your work like before, and how has the COVID-19 pandemic impacted you and your initiative in EcoNights?
Maybe I need to qualify my status right now. Like I'm not really based in the Economics office. My role there is has been reduced a lot over the years. So I'm actually now on the corporate side. So to be honest, from Economics perspective, we do a lot of community work. So I think when COVID came on board, immediately was to minimize proximity to all the beneficiaries. And at the same time, try to figure out what other ways can we reach out to them or design content that would be desirable for them to participate or take action in. And that has given birth to our School of Sustainability webinar series. We call it SOS Webinar Series. And I think it's almost probably 2 or 3 workshops, and they're really community centric, very fun for children, activities to do as well, and also sharing knowledge. And I'm not sure whether you guys have heard or familiar with the Kuala Lumpur Eco Film Festival.
Yes.
So that is a annual festival we run where everyone physically gets together and watch
Yeah.
films. Um, and at the back of my mind, not that I don't like the festival, but I feel like you have to drive all the way to enjoy things on a weekend. It's quite wasted. We've always had a digital uh, uh, plan for this, but it was never the right time. Pre-COVID, I think fighting for eyeballs for content is a bit of a challenge as well. And I think if I give you 10 things you want to watch online, I don't think environment or sustainability will be your top 3 choice. So, but I think when COVID happened, we realized that the demand for stories, content about environment increased, funnily. And what resulted was now we are running the first digital environmental festival all year round. And instead of just people enjoying and coming to the festival, now it's global. Everyone else can enjoy it. So in a way, some of the innovations that we rolled out in the last month actually is a great blessing in disguise. It really helped us escalate and scale up our reach exponentially.
That's great. And thank you so much for sharing. I mean, I think there is a huge demand for environmental content now. I mean, everyone's watched Tiger King here, I'm pretty sure. So,
Hmm.
uh, okay. So, what about Brian? What do you think? Yeah. Do you need me to repeat the question?
Yeah, then like how it's affected our
Yeah.
industry or like my work. So if you repeat the question.
Sure. So what was your work like before, and how has the pandemic impacted your work, especially because you are an online platform after all,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. So I think for us, I was based in Singapore because we started expanding to Singapore. But I had to come back because uh, Singapore was picking up as far as Malaysia is going to lockdown. So they decided to come back. Um, the team is now fully working remotely, so that wasn't too hard for us because a lot of the stuff is done in the cloud. already. But actually, because of all these universities closing, there's been a lot of demand in terms of like how to connect students to industry mentors, because there are like industries right now that are not hiring. There are a lot of companies that are releasing a lot of employees, making it a lot harder. And I think one thing the universities need to do is make sure that the students are able to get jobs. So they've been engaging us a lot more, trying to give some insights on what is going on actually in these industries, because they don't have any visibility on it.
Right. And what about you, Richard? I think you have been exhausted for the past 3 months, right?
Yeah, so I mentioned that I am originally in the field of rehab medicine with a special interest in neuro rehab. So before pre-COVID, on a day-to-day basis, my job is mainly managing patients who are stroke survivors, traumatic brain injury survivors, spinal cord injury survivors, patients with neurodegenerative conditions. So basically anything to do with the brain or the neurological system. But since the start of the local COVID-19 outbreak in early March, I am now officially deployed to the hospital's COVID-19 task force. So I put aside my usual work in rehab services, and it will likely continue for the foreseeable near future. How has COVID impacted me? I think personally, I have lost my weekends and public holidays. I am
Yeah.
also unable to go for a haircut.
Oh,
Okay, but
Nobody's getting a haircut.
jokes aside, the first 2 months of joining the task force was mainly spent on firefighting. Uh, as we saw a daily surge in positive COVID-19 cases, I don't want to bore the audience with the technicalities, but it basically included treating the positive individual and also implementing and enforcing public health measures such as effective and immediate contact tracing, institutional quarantine, site decontamination of environmentally contaminated areas, and testing all the individuals with contact risk. So we did this all while actively increasing the healthcare capacity in terms of the workforce, the ventilator, the isolation rooms, the personal protective equipment, the quarantine center, the testing capacity. All this is important uh, in preparation for the surge of the second or the third or the fourth wave. So the past 2 weeks, actually, as the number of new cases reduce and more patients are discharged from the hospital, we actually had time to analyze all that we did, and we actually spent the time understanding what happened and formulating a proper response plan for the rest of 2020, which I think is necessary moving forward.
Right. Thank you so much, Richard. And I will get back to you on asking what that kind of response is going to look like. Okay, so my next question is actually to Brian. Can you share with us? It is stated according to statistics that Southeast Asian region is expected to become the fourth largest economy by 2050. With such strong digital penetration in our region and the rise of gig economies and startups, do you think this is going to be accelerated?
Yeah, definitely. I think I think in terms of acceleration of tech, it's like 2 or 3 years ahead now, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
everyone really has to like you switch on to digital. That's why a lot of people are struggling, and actually a lot of companies are not actually set up for it. For example, my dad's company, lots of security on the laptop, no way that he can do any work outside the office. So all these big companies with ridiculous security on the laptops can't even function. So I had to fix his laptop for him, or like try to like be his tech support, right? So I think in terms of digitization is there, but it's a mindset thing, right? Like are the people ready for tech? The young people is not too bad, but you're talking about like managers, senior managers that may be working in a very traditional industry. So I think those guys would find it quite difficult. But to be honest, like 30 years is a long time for us. And I'll be 62 years old by the time we get to 2050. But I think in the next 2 or 3 years, it's going to be tough. Like, I know a lot of my friends startups that are like releasing a lot of really good people. Huge companies they can't afford to keep their staff. So I think for graduates entering this market, you have to really prepare for it. But I think you can. There's so much free resources out there, but you just need to understand it's not going to be easy. So
That's really true. But I'm also concerned about the current economy right now. Do you think we can recover from this?
I think we can recover for anything, right? I think that it's just, but it's the time, right? There's going to be a lag. So even now, like as Dr. Richard mentioned, there's still a lot of things going for third, fourth wave, right? So I don't think anyone can be safe going to work until there's some sort of vaccine or like mass testing. But the great thing is that as long as we have internet, we can work. But it also depends on the industry you're in, right?
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
think yeah, there's going to be lots of companies that won't be around actually if things don't get better or any government support. So it's actually really scary because I'm in a lot of WhatsApp chats with these guys. It's terrifying, man. So I do think we haven't really analyzed the impact of it, but we're still in the middle of it. So it's like still a long way to go.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And Yasmin, do you have any points that you would like to add coming from the social entrepreneurship side?
I concur with Brian. I'm also in some of these WhatsApp group, and I can feel and hear uh, I mean, I guess no one really expected this to happen, but I think moving forward, this really just highlight our lack of resiliency. It's not something entirely negative if we look at then building back the resiliency. So I think
Right.
this building back phase would be interesting, and it will be bursting with a lot of opportunities for new ideas, new innovations to be put in place. And as much as I'm all for telecommuting. I mean, for me, it's a greener option. You don't have to jump in the car and waste time in traffic. Telecommuting for me is the bomb. But it's also getting everyone, because in one company, especially if you talk about big company, I'm not referring to Econites, there are at least 3-4 gens in one setup. Got the 20-year-old young graduates and the 65-year-old, whatever, year old directors. So getting everyone on board to be efficient, on the digital scape, I think something we need to improve on. But I do see some innovation. Econite's average age in the organization is 25. They have no problem doing digital stuff. In fact, I think for the multitaskers in this generation with multiple interest areas and multi potentialites like you guys, I think the digital approach to working, the communication, I think it's a very exciting future. It's very exciting.
Hmm. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. That was a really great way to sum up all these things. So Yasmin, as we can see how the world responded to this health crisis. It seems like the world is capable of working together in fighting a global crisis. But do you think we could be able to respond to climate crisis the way we did with COVID?
I think there's a big difference between COVID and climate crisis. COVID, uh, you drag the entire timeline. It happened at very fast pace. It spread very fast. Um, and I think, a lack of a better word, the infectious rate reached out a very broad demographic. Because initially, when the disease started, there were some opinions about how it started, what country, what race, and then later on, now boom, everyone's got it right. So a
Yeah.
virus does not recognize your skin color or blood type, but this looks at you as delicious food. Whereas climate crisis takes a longer time to yield the kind of impacts, but the impacts are also, you can say, very detrimental, but maybe not as widespread as COVID. So, for instance, I don't know, you can say an extreme weather event, pollution, and so on and so forth. So, the intensity of both situations differ, and I think as human beings, when you see humanity affected, lives being lost at such a rate, I guess your attention would gravitate towards solving that first. Now,
Right.
climate change is like, that saying, or when you put a frog in boiling water, the frog will jump out. But if you
Yeah.
put a frog in normal water and slowly boil the water, the frog will end up dying because it's just slowly acclimatizing to the hot temperature, right? that's more the climate crisis right now.
Right.
We're like moving like, "Oh, okay, 1.5 degrees, all right, can still go to work, what?" So then we continue. But else COVID is like, no, this is it, you know?
Yeah.
So it really is two different matters, but at the same time, a pandemic like this, of course, on a bigger scale of things, does affect the entire sustainability of the planet. So in a way, they're kind of related, but not really.
Yeah, that's true. Hopefully, we will be able to like come together and hopefully solve climate crisis together globally.
I just
So,
like to add, Malina,
sure.
that for decades, we've already had organizations in the country that are doing research in very remote areas, collecting viruses and bacteria that are new in areas where the jungle is deforested or open up for plantation and all that. When the new virgin areas get opened up for development, we allow, I mean, you've all watched Contagion, you all watched that show,
Yeah,
right? Um, Pandemic on Netflix. And I think when you open up the opportunity for unknown diseases to interact with human or farm animals, and this is development, you will inevitably increase the risk or potential of doing this. But I am glad to hear that there are many medical based NGOs that have set foot here already doing research. But I think COVID just got under our radar, and they probably found vaccines for other stuff, but not COVID.
that's true. And that's a shame. Hopefully, we can recover from this as a society. Thank you so much for sharing, Yasmin. Okay, so Richard, I am just wondering, I mean, since you are I mean, you are in the COVID task force, can you share with us some of the lessons that you have learned? What do you think Malaysia was equipped with enough healthcare resources to handle such a big outbreak, especially in Bornean states such as Sarawak, like where you are right now?
Okay. Um, okay. So Malaysia's healthcare system is unique in the sense that we have universal, affordable healthcare for all levels of society. This is not seen. This is seen only in a very small number of countries, and even then, most of these countries fund such affordable healthcare via a national health insurance fund, such as the NHS in the UK,
Yeah,
Medisave in Singapore, or Taiwan National Health Insurance. So the strong government presence in the health system of Malaysia actually provides a very strong backbone for the country as a whole to rise up against any public health crisis. In this instance, it happens to be COVID-19. But that being said, I think everyone would have realized by now that COVID-19 proved to be a public health challenge of epic proportion. The characteristics of the COVID-19 virus in terms of the high transmissibility, the difficult detection, the occult infection that it causes, and the very significant mortality, not very high, but significant, is a pathogen that is never encountered before in the history of Malaysia, not the world, in the history of Malaysia. And it's probably once in a century type of pathogen, the likes dating back to the 1900s with the Spanish flu
that's
pandemic.
true.
Mm.
Yeah, so Kuching and the Greater Kuching area with a population of about 1 million resident was definitely not spared the onslaught of COVID-19. Uh, the first case was diagnosed on 11 March this year, a local surveillance system that we have implemented since early February. We are fortunate in the sense that we are not ground zero. We had the benefit of time to make early preparations, having already witnessed the devastation of Wuhan in Hubei and also Italy the month before. So we did have time to restock our PPE supplies, service our ventilator machines, prepare the adequate number of isolation rooms, ensure the training of the healthcare workers, draft early response plans. So all this was done, and we thought we were ready. But, and this is a big but here, it became obvious by the end of the first week since the first patient was diagnosed that we were clearly out of our depth. We
Mm.
were Locally, we were struck by three concurrent clusters. that incubated in the 2-week period from the end of February up to early March. So these 3 clusters were the participants who were returning from the Table, a local church cluster in Cushing, and also a funeral procession cluster. So each cluster actually involved several hundreds of people. And by the time we picked up the first positive patient, which was 2 weeks after the incubation, the virus had already transmitted along 3 generations. So you're talking about a few hundred people, and each having 1 to 3 subsequent generational spread. So we were essentially thrown into the deep end of the pool, and I would have to be honest, we would have drowned if not for the timely implementation of the MCO. Because the 3 clusters, because of those 3 clusters that incubated for 2 weeks, today we have almost 500 positive cases. We have 30 over, we had, but most have recovered. We had 30 over ventilated patients. We had about 15 deaths, and we had a completely paralyzed society. Ultimately, we did manage to respond, we did manage to recover, but a lot of it has to do with MCO. But if you were to ask me whether on hindsight we were equipped at the time of detection of the first patient, whether in Cushing we were equipped. And I need to tell you that Cushing is probably the busiest city in Sarawak. We have not yet infected the other smaller cities. We were certainly not prepared, and we were certainly ill-equipped. A lot of the new measures that we drew up and implemented were done in the thick of the firefighting. The supply of PPE that we thought was enough was nowhere near sufficient. Our number of hospital beds for positive patients, quarantine centers were nowhere enough, and we had to almost quadruple the capacity during the time where we were in the thick of firefighting. So we were very lucky in the sense that we had about 30 over ventilator beds, and we had about 31 ventilated patients. So as the treating doctor, we did not have to decide who lives or dies based on the number of ventilators. That was very, very fortunate for us. So those 20 people who were ventilated and subsequently survived can actually really, really count their lucky stars. But I think what I want to say is that I can only hope that we learn from our mistakes as a society and realize the consequences of unprotected large gatherings during these times of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Right. Thank you so much, Richard. And I think it's also a great segue for us to highlight on the amazing work that various nonprofits are doing to help the frontliners. So, for example, we have BGBG and we have Tanoti in Sarawak who are supplying PPE gowns to the frontliners. So, which is really great. It's so nice to see how the world comes together to help.
Yeah, I was craving for better fashionable face mask. I'm so glad that on social media you can find so many interesting entrepreneurs that customize this. You know, you can put your PM whatever 2.5 filter and just remove the filter.
Yeah, which is so
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
No, I think preparing for pandemic friendly fashion wear in the future it may be a sector to explore.
That's so true. And that is also a great point, Yasmin. So perhaps I could ask you, this new normal is such a buzzword now. So maybe if I can just ask you, what is your hope stepping into the new normal, and what do you think that would look like in the sustainable development sector?
Oh, sustainable development. Okay, I was going to go all out personal stuff, but
Oh, can also.
I guess as a parent with kids that are going to school, and also now my daughter is ready for college, but we're holding back because currently we've got her friends who have enrolled in college, but everything is still, you still have to be at home and just really go online. So for me and my husband, we felt that college is not just education, it's experiential. So we're holding her, well, and then she's agreeable as well, that we're holding her back from registering for the next sem until there is a glimpse of hope that, there are some interaction available. So that part, I think, or maybe just using the right tech. I think in moving forward, maybe physical classrooms are a thing of the past. Now, I think it's a really important time to look at how can you decrease this proximity between teacher and student in a new environment digitally. I'm really excited to see what innovations that will come in. Whether I log in as a so Ready Player One, but I still love it.
Yeah.
I so love
Yeah.
it as well because you're here, but you're globally. And if you know how to use the power that's given to you, you can really acquire knowledge and opportunities out there. It's just that whether you understand you can put this into motion or not. And I hope those that are listening in, and I know many of you are very well knowledgeable as well. I think the difference between those who do become someone someday out there is because some take action on it. So if
Yeah.
anything, I think look at opportunities. COVID is scary. Maybe shouldn't cover yourself with fear as well. Like, look at really open up your eyes and look at perspectives there and see how you can give back to society or give a new change to society. On the sustainable development side, right? I think the first month when COVID happened, everyone was like, "Hey, see this river so clean, see the sky so blue, see the air so clear." That is pretty much the impact when you take millions of people that commute daily to work, that do their everyday activities, have to stop. So that would probably be more of an acute impact of COVID because it was a mass number of people globally as well that put a stop to using fossil fuel for a while. That probably didn't go out, didn't release that much carbon. But in the long run, I'm uncertain whether this is something good for the environment. I mean, sure, I like to see wildlife coming back into our rivers because they can sense human beings are not around or so. But if COVID is over and everything is safe, and if we resume everything, then we will lose all that as well. And some people say now the environment will be severely threatened during COVID. And in Malaysia, there are already evidence of it. So I think the Perak state government made statements to the federal ministry stating that the state had no money to look at helping its people. The easiest and lowest hanging fruit is for them to start immediately degazetting the forest and resume logging, mining, or anything to do with opening up land. So there you go. Money versus sustainability. At the end of the day, money is always the caveat, right? And I think it's an interesting time to see where we go from here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. That is a relatively sober realization. Um, so, Brian, perhaps we can go to you now. Can you share with us what is your hope in stepping into the new normal
Oh well, yeah.
from your
So
perspective? Yeah.
yeah, I think it kind of shows the gap in education. One thing I've always thought is that I'm not sure how long universities will exist for, right? Because I think there's a lot of things that universities don't prepare you for actually, right? I know a lot of 16-year-old coders that earn way more than like 30-year-old full-time workers. So I think where the future of education is going is that I think now you realize whether you like the subject or not, depending on the teacher, right? The content can be shown by videos. So if you can create very good, engaging videos, like Netflix quality videos to teach subjects, that is so much better than one teacher teaching online, right? And you
Yeah.
can do a lot of things where you can track impressions as well. So I think for content, nothing beats like YouTube videos, Netflix, TikToks, right? It's just way more engaging because it's more fun.
Yeah.
Education should be fun, right? But I think about but there's a lot of the interpersonal skills that needs to be developed as well. Like it cannot be done through a laptop. So I think like how I believe or how I would like the world to move forward is that content should be standardized, right? Because whether you have a good teacher or you don't have a good teacher will affect your grade. So if all content is standardized, it doesn't matter what university you went to, the content is the same, right? So I think it would be great to see that really good content. So for all of us to engage and absorb it. I also think like the mindset shift in technology and education, right? Because if you look at disruptions in transportation with Uber, Grab, fintech, finance. But education is something that hasn't really been disrupted. If you look at most universities like Oxford, Cambridge, and all, right, they're famous because they're old, right? That is the
True.
prestige, right? It's nothing like that's a terrible way to think about it because the world's evolving so rapidly. So one of I don't know what you guys noticed, but actually 60% of Malaysian graduates cannot get jobs after they graduate up to 6 to 12 months. In Indonesia, it is 73%, right? So we're just talking about jobs here. When you talk about the job that you actually want, is way lower. Because after 6 to 12 months, your parents will scold you, you have to get a job, right? Like no one's gonna let you
Yeah.
go to your house. Right? So it's getting a lot more competitive. And it also kind of shows the gap in terms of education and what you can actually use in the workplace. Because I think most companies know that the first 2 or 3 years they're just training you, and they're just looking for whether you are a good mold that can fit, what needs to be done. So I think I really hope with this entire COVID thing, like especially in Southeast Asia, we really need to adapt in terms of like upgrading our education system, scaling it in a way that everyone has access to these kind of industry knowledge and industry education, right? Because if you look how recruitment works, right, for students out here, companies will go to selective universities that they have a relationship with. Maybe like 10, maximum 10, right? Because they have a small team, they physically go there. But let's say you're in Sarawak, right? So I'm from Miri. So let's say who's going to travel to Miri, right, to recruit students there? Who's going to Kuching, right? There's no one, everyone's going to go to UM, Taylor, Sunday.
Yeah.
But that's unfair for the students, right? Because, I mean, so they cannot, that's where they study. So if you can actually digitalize this industry knowledge and actually build a feedback loop to students that they can have access to this, people will, they'll be so much more prepared for the workforce. You're going to have so much more skilled people as well, and also more self-aware students, right? Because I think as an Asian, like as an Asian student, right, we either, sorry, Dr. Richard, we're either a doctor, accountant, an engineer, a lawyer,
Yeah.
architect,
Yeah.
Teacher.
or businessman, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's no way in the world that all of us fit into these 6 buckets, right? So if you look at just accounting itself, so many of these people get into PwC, EY, and they leave just because they hate it. It's not them, right? And when you decide what you want to study, it's actually very dependent on your parents or your uncle or your auntie, right? Like whoever, your cousin is a doctor, suddenly your mom wants you to be a doctor, right? So I think what I hope is that moving forward is that people want to be themselves, find something that really resonates with them, and they have the internet, right? You have all the resources you need in the world to learn these skill sets and go into find these jobs. Because you don't need to be limited by Malaysia. You think the world's your oyster, right? If you're good, you can get a job anywhere. So I
Yeah.
think I do hope this is a shock to the education system, in not in just Malaysia but in the region, and hopefully they
Yeah.
understand like, hey, we need to upgrade this thing because it's definitely broken. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
That is so awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. I really resonated when you say, you give people the opportunity to want to be themselves. And I think it's also very important for us to provide them access with the industry knowledge because not a lot of people would know things. I mean, like, not people would be equipped with the knowledge of how to, to be a project manager or whatever. They might be able to know what professional jobs would look like, but they won't know what the relatively less popular jobs would look like.
yeah.
That might be
I think there's one point, but I think there's a lot of new fun jobs that people don't know,
yeah, I
like
totally
product
agree. I mean,
design, user experience. Like there's really fun jobs that really fits everyone. You just got to find it, right, or look for it. I think
Yeah.
that's what people don't realize because right now everyone wants to just to get A's, get good grades. Doesn't work.
Yeah.
There's so many people that is better than you. But what makes you stand out is the passion. Right? When you go for the interview, I want to work for Yasmin because she's awesome. She's my idol, right? She'll hire you, dude. Especially if you can get the grades, right? So I
yeah.
think it is all about whether there's a good why behind why you're applying to this place. And I think it's very easy to resonate or very easy to see when someone comes like that.
That is so true. And I think that reflects from you and Yasmin's background experiences as well. I mean, you might have different academic backgrounds, but ultimately you become someone that you want to be. And even for me as
Oh,
well,
yeah.
my background was in law. And,
Hey,
now I'm
Brian,
working
aren't you a biologist
Me?
or a
I'm a,
marine biologist?
I'm a biochemist.
Biochemist, yeah.
I'm a biochemist. I became management consulting and then other companies. Yeah.
yeah. Look at you
Did
guys.
you
You guys
know
are
you
all
were
a bunch of
gonna?
scientists.
Did you know you were gonna do this? No.
No idea actually. Yeah. So I think one of the reasons why is like I spent a year in Oxford researching rare diseases, and I realized that it was super isolated. Like I was alone. I was just like audiobooks,
Mm,
and I realized it wasn't me. I really enjoy like
Yeah,
working with people and stuff.
mm.
that's
But you
true.
didn't have any regrets, right? Studying biochem.
I love science. I still love science. I still love
So
science.
I think many of the audience are like that as well. Why I took multi-potential, multi-lights there, because in Eco Nights we're seeing a really strong evolution of the young talents out there that are being tuned to be very monodiscipline because school is like that. Now you see more universities branching out to interdisciplinary studies. That means you can have primary engineering degree and a secondary social science, which is good because the world is multidisciplinary, not monodiscipline.
That's
So,
true.
and I think with the parenting that is happening now, and I'm a parent too, 18 and 11-year-old, you really they grew up with tools, with gadgets, right? Potential really escalates a lot. They maneuver gadgets at a much younger age at a better dexterity than anyone else. So my challenge now is also I'm probably the last generation that was very where I had parents that focus on that thing lah, either become a doctor, engineer, lawyer. And now for me, I tell my
Very true.
children, you can be anything you want, you can study anything you want, because I know for sure, and this is my experience, I didn't end up, hey, no offense, Richard, I didn't end up I
Yeah, I know it's quite
totally,
racist.
I'm jealous of you. I wanted to be a doctor. I wasn't smart enough. The grades say I wasn't smart enough. I'm pretty sure I'll be a kick-ass. But what happened is I see my children and I really want their potential to grow in multi-dimensions. I don't want to say, hey, go do accountancy because I think that's safe for you. Because that's
Yeah,
not life. Life is so many things.
that's so true.
So parents, older parents are not tuning in.
Thank you so much, Yasmin. And I think that's really great. I hope, I wish your daughter all the best before she enters college. And yeah, so maybe last but not least, Richard, maybe you can share with us your hope on what the new normal would look like.
Normal.
Yes, please.
I just want to reinforce the point that Brian and Yasmin are making in terms of the transition to digitalization. It is there is no more urgent push for digitization than COVID-19. Um, COVID-19 will definitely test the resilience of traditional businesses, and surely businesses that fail to adapt will ultimately drop. Uh, I'm not a parent, but I am a mentor to four young 10 to 12-year-olds. And I have, in the past 2 months, no, but even before this, I completely agree that the Malaysian education system is a little outdated and it's very traditional. When I travel to Singapore and to other parts of the world, it's obvious that there is a digital push to increase the percentage of digital literacy among uh, youth over there. And when I see the type of education that we still implement in Malaysia, I sort of am very worried of what type of jobs um, they will be having in the next 10 years when they graduate, because the people who are tech savvy, who have strong digital literacy skills, would probably be in managerial positions, whereby our local graduates would probably be doing the manual work. So because of that, these four young mentees of mine have been enrolled into uh, online. It's conducted on Zoom platform, but it's online computer digital literacy classes whereby they learn basic computing, media design, web design, basic gaming programming. So I think all that fits into the point that Brian and Yasmin is trying to make. Even in the hospitals throughout the country, the public hospitals, we realize that because of our lack of digital transition, we are really caught off guard. And during this time, you can see that in our workplaces, there is now a shift in terms of the mentality, and we are systemically, we are actually moving most of our physical meetings onto video conferencing platforms. We are conducting our teaching sessions on webinars just like this, and we are even conducting more face-to-face telemedicine consultations via video conferencing platform. So there is obviously a digital push in the hospital, and it will happen in all other sectors of the economy. So back to Amalina's question. So what does the new normal look like to me? Is that a question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So so now back to Dr. Richard. Okay. So in the broader sense, the new normal would be the coordinated efforts to sort of balance the health implications of loosening the MCO versus the economic trade-off of tightening the MCO. So from a disease transmission point of view, we can compartmentalize society into three categories. One is those who have been infected and recovered. So this category A is presumed to be immune. Those who are still actively infected, category B, and those who are still susceptible, which is category C. So based on the very, very, very early local seroprevalence studies that we are doing in Cushing, we can estimate that the percentage population of A and B is about 2 to 5%, just a ballpark figure. Okay, so that is a very far cry from the 60% herd immunity that is required to break the chain of community transmission. So knowing that only 2 to 5% are infected, the risk of a bigger second, third, and fourth wave remains very, very significant. So I think it is not a time to be complacent. It is not a time to let our guards down. I know that there are people who are very, very tired and frustrated with the MCO because the MCO has been 2 months, but they can only do so because they have reaped the benefits of the MCO. They have seen low number of deaths. They have seen low number of mobility. We could easily have been same as other countries, like in the conditions in Hubei or the conditions in Italy. Okay, so different countries around the world are trying different approaches to balance this health risk versus economic risk. The US, I don't know whether I should be saying it because it's a YSEALI platform. The US have decided strongly to favor economy over health. At one point, Britain also decided to do so, but within 2 weeks, they backtracked their stance because the NHS was near a point of collapse. The Scandinavian countries like Sweden have very loose restrictions on those who are at low risk, but have higher restrictions on those who are elderly and those who have underlying medical issues. This is all in contrast with our Asian countries like Korea, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. These three countries have imposed very strict lockdowns, and they have very strict SOP guidelines in place when they reopen their economy, and very, very strict enforcement of these SOPs. So as you can see, every country is sort of conducting their own type of human population experiment. But only time will tell which option is better, whether option of very loose restrictions or option of very tight restrictions. But the fact of the matter is, and this is undeniable, that an unrelentless economic push will ultimately be paid for by the blood of our citizens. That is
Well said.
for
Well said.
Yeah.
That was
Thank
good.
you so much. Yeah, Richard, that was really awesome. You gave me goosebumps right away. Okay, so I think those are all the questions that I have, and we have approximately 10 minutes to answer all the questions from our participants. So maybe we can ask the first question to, I think this would suit Brian, the first two questions. I think you addressed it earlier just now, but so this question is about universities. The question is, how will the new normal impact university students in placing a job in the near future? And
Yeah.
I think you can also tie that to the second question, that is, what kind of skills that those undergraduate or fresh graduates should equip themselves so that they could prepare for the new normal.
Okay, so I think what's really normal now is like remote working, right? So I think like I mean we have hired some interns as well, so but they're all working remotely. So I don't think students will have any problem using the tech, but I think they might have a problem learning how to work with a team, right, in a professional setting, right? So I think one thing that a lot of students need to realize is that you have to be very proactive during this time. What I mean by that is that, if you join the company, you get to know the team members, you get to know the product. You got to ask, right? Because I think when the team is busy, they don't have the time to chase you compared to an office. When you're in an office, everyone's around. You have your supervisor. It's great. But I think when you're working remotely, like you have to be that proactive person that's asking a lot of questions. Technology wise, I think you guys are way better than your bosses. Or if that's who's your boss, lah, right? But if your boss is quite young, maybe not. But if your boss is older, you probably need to troubleshoot a bit with it as well, right? How to do
Yeah.
webinars, right? What to. But I think you guys have that down. It's not an issue, right? But I think it's more of like, how do you even present yourself on an interview like this? A lot of my interviews now are online, right? And like it's a bit harder because you got to put your personality to go through a camera, right? Whereas
Yeah.
like if you're meeting someone face to face, you can see the body language, you can see how they walk, are they late? You can't really be late. If you're late for an online interview, man, like GG, you cannot.
Yeah.
It's literally just
You're not getting a job.
oh, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
so,
All you
so
have to
you're
do
late
is
for
turn
that,
on the webcam, right? Yeah.
you can just switch on your phone, right? So like if you're late,
Yeah.
you cannot get job already. So right, so show up on time. I think the technology wise is not an issue, but I do think it's a lot more competitive as well. So you do have to practice a lot of your interviews, and if you do get the opportunity to do so, you have to really show that you deserve to be there, because there's a lot of people looking for these jobs, and there's a lot of also working professionals that just lost their jobs, right? So you're also competing with them, right? So these are like your seniors, your 1 year above you, just got into a company, just got let go, but now they have 1 year working experience in a company, right? And they will be competing for graduate jobs. So
Yeah.
I think there's two ways you can look at it. You can be very scared and do nothing about it, or you can be scared and do something about it, right? So I think it is really important for you to find out what you want to do. Really find out as much information as you can, and write a good cover letter, write a good CV, spend time on that. If you get an interview, make sure that you show up on time, you present yourself well, and if you get the job, you're very proactive. I think moving forward as well, I think something that people really need to develop, and these kind of webinars are great, is the growth mindset, because you can see in any point in your career, things can change, right? So there are people in like their 40s, or like late 30s that they're quite comfortable already, then suddenly this happens. Are you able to change to whatever the world needs you to be, right, or the company needs to be? So I think that adaptability is important. But you guys have all the resources you need because you have the internet, right? So as long as you are able to know how to find things, know how to learn things, and how to implement it, I think you'll be pretty set for the future.
Thank you so much, Brian. And fun fact, I'm actually wearing my pajama pants, but no one can see.
Same here. No one
Yeah, I
is
know, right?
here.
I'm so happy I'm not the only one. Okay, so maybe we can take the second question. I mean, so I'm going down a little bit deeper with 6 foot. Maybe this question can be for Yasmin. How is this year going to be like for NGOs?
Yeah, that question is actually staring back at me right now.
Yeah.
I think this would be a very interesting year for NGOs because it's really testing the resiliency and the sustainability and integrity of NGOs. And I think those that are actually do not have to lay off staff or can continue to work are probably NGOs that are sitting on a different business model or approach or theory of change that is not entirely disrupted by what is normal around them. So there are many that seem to be actually more resilient now, going from strength to strength. And I hope those that are not able to enjoy that actually now observe how some of these NGOs work and deploy and mobilize themselves. So I don't think we'll know yet, but I know for sure a few already tutup kedai. Where else a few sprung up because of COVID, and are doing work in the healthcare sector, because I think NGOs are a good conduit, and they are closer in proximity to community. So they're always the good last mile entity to have to deliver, to engage, or to collect and all that.
Right.
So it's really conflicting information now. Maybe end of the year I can maybe have a more conclusive view on this. But I'm really intrigued now. I'm also observing many of them.
Yeah, I mean, since you have a large network of nonprofits within your circle, would you mind just sharing with us some that you think have success stories in combating the pandemic?
Mhm. I can't say there are success stories yet because COVID just hit us for about 3-4 months. I'm now looking at how some of these innovations some NGOs are working on post COVID potential to be applied in other areas, or has the capacity to scale up. So we would probably never thought that, in the past, social enterprise or NGOs that create jobs for women through sewing, right? Creating jobs. Who would have thought that if you can get all 10 together and like, have the same mechanism in place, like what GBG is doing with in their campaign for the sewing of PPE, and they can generate what I don't know how many, 10 to 20,000 PPEs a day or something like that. And that's the collective power of NGOs. So you really
Right.
need to know how, and this is where I agree with Ryan. University don't teach you this lah. You
That's true.
and need to be empathetic. You need to be aware. Yes, read a lot of news, but you dive deep into the actual scenario. It's always easy for us to give a remark or opinion or something. But are you really in that situation to experience? So, yeah, I think it's an interesting time, and those that will be resilient in the next 16 months, 18 months, I think will probably be the NGOs that can stay a lot longer lah. But
Right.
I'm biased, yeah. In my perfect world, my utopia, NGO shouldn't exist anyway lah, because community will be empowered, right? I'm also conflicted. I'm not saying that I'm not in favor of having more NGO, because in my perfect world, community can solve their own issues, then you don't need a mediation by NGOs.
Right.
So a good NGO is an NGO that has clear its vision and mission and task, and finally can put up PI.
Yeah,
That's
that's true.
the long-term sustainability.
That's a great way to look at it, and that's also a very interesting perspective that I never have thought of. Thank you so much, our awesome speakers. We have about 2 more minutes. So maybe my final questions to you guys is, do you have any final thoughts? And if the participants are interested to reach out to you, how can they reach out to you? Richard, do you want to go first?
Okay. So, what has horrified me the past 3 days now, since the MCO, about 2 days, okay, sorry, 2 days, is when I go to the eateries or the kopitiams, where I usually have my coffee, which I have taken away for the past 2 months and 2 days. I haven't had it. Is that I'm so worried when I see that the difference between the pre-MCO period and the current conditional MCO period is that there's two X's on a square table. So everything else remains status quo. So that is to me really worrying, and that is to me defeats the principle of social distancing. Even there's no improvement in even hygiene measures. There's no soap. There's no sanitizers. I know it's there in MITI SOP guidelines, but it is not being enforced. It's not being
Mm.
complied to. So I just want to add my probably last remarks to all the viewers. Right now, Malaysia is in a stage of conditional MCO. We are in place. We are in the strength of. We are in a place of or position of strength in terms of healthcare capacity and economic resilience. But whatever happens on June 9, will depend on our actions for the next 1 month. We can either see further loosening of the MCO, or we can see maintenance of the current status quo, or we can see what I fear most is MCO 2.0, which is a tightening of the restrictions. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. And how can people reach out to you if they want to reach out to you?
Instagram handle Richard SKTO, or email
Okay.
richardskto@gmail.com.
Thank you so much, Richard. You can also add your email and your social media account on the chat box next to it. So, what about Brian?
So how to reach out, is it? That's the.
Yeah, so reach out, and what are your final thoughts?
I mean, I you know I think this is a really interesting opportunity. I don't think. I think there's a lot of students here, right? Don't take it as a scary thing. Take it as a way that the world is. You can do whatever you want now, right? So like, there's no traditional way anymore. So you can either take it in a way that, hey, I can do anything I want. I can learn anything I want. Um, and I think there's a lot of free courses online. There's a lot of opportunities as well. You don't need to work in Malaysia. You can work remotely. You can work in Singapore, Hong Kong, UK, US. It doesn't matter anymore, right? So
Yeah.
you can work anywhere. But I would say, like, it is going to be competitive. I know that is a bit scary, but I think if you really want something, to work for it and make sure that you're not complacent and thinking that it's going to be handed to you. And I think that's just a general rule for life, right? Just work for what you want. Don't assume people's going to give it to you. You take it, but you work hard for it, right? And I think if any of you guys want to connect to our mentors, we have a lot of mentors around the world that you can connect with. I'll give you a promo code for that, so you guys can connect to them for free.
Hey.
Yes, please.
Yeah, no problem. I'll type in a promo code there. But if you guys would like to connect with me as well, you can just find me on LinkedIn, Brian Tan, or you can just email me at brian@teacherlab.my. Just type it in as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Brian. And lastly, Yasmin, over to you.
Maybe a couple last words. This is not going to be the first or last pandemic. Maybe it may stretch over time, but I think move forward. There are four things that not really keep me awake, but keep me thinking about how to be more resilient dealing with waves of pandemic. So first item is how you can improve on the public health communication. I do see some good posts there, and I really hope health and politics don't meddle too closely too much as well. Number two, I'm really interested to see what sort of fashion will be in place in the future in preparation of a pandemic. And I think there's a lot of sustainability elements in there because it's not trend, it's a protective gear now. So I'm really looking, and I've been asking around some social enterprise as well to look at coming up with hackathons on designing PPE that is fashionable. Uh, I'll invest in it if anyone has an idea on that. Lastly, two more things. The emergence of two or three fields together in the future, biology, engineering, maybe cybernetics. I think in the future, to prevent death or spread of infectious diseases, humanity just needs to be monitored and tracked better. So it's really an exciting Matrix, Black Mirror kind of future where
Yeah.
are we going to, will we be having nanotech or RFID, something where with a scan, I can tell whether you have this disease or not, that kind of thing, So we've all watched sci-fi movies. So I'm really psyched about that. I just hope I live long enough to live through it. And lastly, virtual universities, lah. I think that would be the bomb. That would be the bomb where you go to a different realm, technically a global
Yeah.
university with your avatar. You actually flip through books, go to library in this whole virtual space. I'm really excited to see these four areas actually grow in the next, hopefully, in my lifetime.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Yasmin. I love how despite everything, your messages are still filled with hope and so full of positivity. So thank you so much for that. There is also a great way for us to end our webinar today. I apologize for extending slightly later by 5 minutes. But I really hope that everyone out there at home is enjoying this conversation, and we hope that we will be in touch. And we wish you all the speakers all the best in all your endeavors.
Okay.
So yeah, with that, I'm going to end the webinar today with thank you so much and have a great evening, everyone. Bye.
Bye,
Thanks, guys.
Richard. Bye, Brian. Really nice to see you
Bye,
guys.
Ken. Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
Melina. And everyone, have a good night.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.